from Steven Jackson, who is so entrenched in gang culture that he openly endorses the habit of checking in.
And one thing about it, if you're a real one, you don't mind checking in. I check in with the real one.
That is why I am in the center of the ancient block. To Paul Pierce, who was stabbed in a gang-related incident and is believed to have ties to the Bloods. In this video, we'll look at NBA players who were high-ranking members of some of the most violent street gangs. Javaris Crittenton. Javaris Crittenton joined the Mansfield Gangster Crips soon after signing with the Los Angeles Lakers in 2007. From there, what began as a promising NBA career swiftly devolved into a nightmare that resulted in murder accusations and a devastated life. Fulton County Assistant District Attorney Gabe Banks expressly said that Crittenton was a member of the Mansfield Gangster Crips, making this one of the most obvious incidents of documented gang involvement among NBA players. Unlike Jackson, Crittenton was actively involved in gang activity. The turning point occurred in August 2011. Crittenton was linked to 2 shootings in the Atlanta area, the second of which resulted in the murder of Julian Jones, a 22-year-old mother of 4. Crittenton allegedly targeted Trontavia Stevens, a member of the ROC Crew, a Bloods-affiliated group, in punishment for a robbery. Crittenton faced a 12-count indictment in 2011 for murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, possession of a firearm while committing a felony, making false statements, and participating in criminal street gang activity. These allegations portrayed a picture of a person actively involved in gang warfare. Crittenton's situation is particularly terrible because his life unraveled so swiftly. He was a first-round draft pick with millions of money and a promising future ahead of him. However, just a few years after joining the Lakers, he was facing life in jail for gang-related murder. ESPN's Outside the Lines investigated Crittenton's gang affiliations, suggesting that his case could provide insight into the relationship between professional sportsmen and gang members. The inquiry uncovered jailhouse interviews with suspected and admitted gang members, which revealed fresh details concerning Crittenton's involvement. The legal proceedings were lengthy and complicated. There were concerns about the strength of the evidence when a crucial witness, Trontavia Stevens, initially identified Crittenton as the gunman, but then recanted, claiming he had not seen the shooter and had only identified Crittenton based on a photo supplied by a neighbor. Crittenton eventually pleaded guilty to manslaughter in 2015, admitting to gang-related offenses. His sentence was originally 23 years, but it was eventually reduced to 10, and he was released on April 21, 2023. Crittenton's case is the most dramatic illustration of how gang involvement can derail a potential NBA career and endanger several lives. Like Crittenton, this next athlete has little interest in concealing his gang affiliations and openly promotes gang-related practices. Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson has openly recognized his involvement with the Blood Street Gang, which began when he was 9 years old. But here's what makes his story so interesting. He has been absolutely open about it. In an ESPN interview from 2005, Jackson discussed his involvement with gang culture. In his own words, "My pals and I were just raised that way. I don't trip on anyone with a blue rag, but it is what I represent. It's what I've been representing since I was 9 years old. All of my buddies from my neighborhood. It was simply inherited. I'm not banging though. What I find remarkable about Jackson's instance is how he distinguished between cultural affiliation and active involvement. He regarded his involvement as inherited, resulting from his environment rather than a formal position in the gang's hierarchy. As a youngster, he acknowledged to gang-related activities such as drug dealing, which he dismissed as a fad and an easy way out. The loss of his older half-brother, Donald Buckner, who was battered to death at the age of 25 when Jackson was 15, most certainly reinforced his attachment to this lifestyle. Jackson's father was also incarcerated for robbery and drug possession, creating an environment in which gang membership felt natural. Jackson's affiliation with the Bloods was symbolized by his habit of wearing a red bandana, which is a popular identification linked with the group. However, by 2008, he no longer maintained a red bandana in his locker as a nod to his blood-splattered hood, implying a deliberate effort to separate himself from overt gang symbolism. Despite this change, Jackson retained certain ties to gang culture. In 2022, his statement about checking in with gangs in every location he visits caused widespread public outrage, reigniting debate over his present attitude on gang culture.
And one thing about it, if you're a real one, you don't mind checking in. I check in with the real one.
That is why I'm in the center of the ancient block. The checking in comment occurred following the murder of rapper PNB Rock and drew widespread outrage. Critics contended that Jackson was promoting gang culture, while supporters claimed he was simply acknowledging his roots and respecting his past. The long-term importance of Jackson's transparency about his ties cannot be understated. While other athletes attempted to separate themselves from their background, Jackson embraced it. His experience raises difficult concerns about the distinction between authenticity and responsibility, as well as whether retaining ties to criminal organizations is ever justified, even if it means staying true to one's heritage. While Jackson's gang affiliations are obvious owing to his direct involvement, the next player, Zach Randolph, is not so clear. Zach Randolph's biggest connection to gang-related activities originates from his friendship with the Hoops family, a group of pals from his hometown who moved with him to Portland. According to police reports, certain members of this group are suspected of having ties to the Crips gang. The Hoops family was more than simply a casual acquaintance group. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office classified them as renowned, with members accused of murder, guns, and drugs distribution. Key occurrences involving the group included a 2011 shooting, in which one member, identified as a Crips associate, was slated to stand trial for the shooting murder of a Portland nightclub bouncer. Even more disturbing was a large-scale narcotics investigation in Indiana, in which a police informant identified Randolph as a major supplier. However, no charges were made against Randolph in connection with this probe, raising concerns about the credibility of the allegations. According to John Canzano, a columnist for The Oregonian, a member of the Portland Police Department's Gang Enforcement Unit, recommended that he watch an MTV Crips program depicting Randolph's residence, which had unsettling facts about the unsavory folks around him. This statement reflects police suspicion, but lacks concrete evidence. Randolph became the subject of much conjecture after a series of incidents occurred during his time in Portland. He was cited for drag racing and carrying a handgun in downtown Portland, which irritated police authorities and contributed to the perception of a gangster lifestyle. Randolph was portrayed in a 2012 Grantland story as enamored with the gangster life, with his crew wearing costly necklaces bearing the abbreviation HOOP, which stands for Helping Others Overcome Issues. However, lifestyle adoption does not necessarily imply formal gang membership. Randolph's legal difficulties extended beyond Portland. In 2017, he was arrested in Los Angeles for possessing marijuana with the intent to sell in the Nickerson Gardens housing project, a known gang-affiliated neighborhood. During Randolph's time in Portland, police spent a significant amount of time and resources watching him and his entourage, demonstrating their concern about his relationships. However, the lack of charges or convictions shows that the evidence may have been inadequate to establish active gang membership. Randolph's case is particularly significant since it highlights the gray area between association and membership. Unlike Crittenton's obvious involvement or Jackson's apparent cultural ties, Randolph's position appears to involve exposure to gang activities through his chosen acquaintances rather than personal participation. Crittenton was always in trouble because of the company he kept, but it was nothing compared to the risk this guy faced during the 2008-09 playoffs. Tony Allen. Tony Allen is most commonly associated with the Gangster Disciples, with his origins traced back to his boyhood in Chicago. However, there are various stories concerning his true allegiance, with some claiming ties to the Black Disciples, or Bloods. The most notable occurrence in Allen's history occurred in 2005. He was charged with aggravated violence following a confrontation outside a Chicago restaurant, which resulted in a shooting. He was declared not guilty in 2007. However, the incident allegedly involved gang members, implying his connection in that world. Allen's gang affiliations became a professional concern during his NBA career. During the 2008-09 playoffs, Allen got death threats during games in Chicago, necessitating increased security. When asked about this by reporters, Allen responded defensively, stating, "Is that what you're going to write about?" Perhaps the most telling event came when Allen joined the Memphis Grizzlies. General Manager Chris Wallace asked Allen if his Gangster Disciples membership would present problems with teammate Zach Randolph, who belonged to a separate set of the gang. Allen's astonished reaction implies he did not perceive this as a professional issue, but the fact that management was concerned demonstrates the gravity of these affiliations. Allen apparently had an encounter with the Gangster Disciples when he was 14, showing that he was exposed to gang culture early on. Online comments indicate that some conflicts developed after he was drafted, with one Reddit user remarking, Yeah, some Shea asterisk asterisk happened after he was drafted. While Allen's gang ties had an impact on his career, this next player's purported associations are still being contested today. James Harden. James Harden's suspected gang links revolve around a single incident in 2012, which triggered charges of false claims from the hip-hop scene and fueled ongoing debate about his genuine affiliations. The dispute started during the 2012 playoffs. On June 4th, 2012, during a playoff game against the San Antonio Spurs, Harden was seen making hand gestures that some mistook for Bloods gang signals. The Bloods utilized unique hand signals, such as the number 5 inches or a 5-pointed star, to indicate affiliation. Harden's social media behavior fueled the dispute. Around the same time, Harden sent a tweet to rapper Lil Wayne, who had voiced frustration about not getting front row seats at an OKC vs. Spurs playoff game. Harden's tweet read, "Come to the next game, we have seats for you 5. Some viewed the quantity 5 inches as an allusion to Bloods jargon. The hip-hop community responded swiftly and harshly. Rappers Slim Thug and Lil Duval accused Harden of making fraudulent claims, implying that he was utilizing gang emblems without being a legitimate member. They stated that he was not interested in that life, citing his reaction to being elbowed by Ron Artest as evidence that he lacked the toughness associated with gang membership. Harden's associations with rappers believed to be associated with the Bloods, such as Lil Wayne, have fueled the rumors. His childhood in South Central Los Angeles, an area infamous for gang activity, has also come up in conversations regarding his purported gang affiliations. The suspicion was resurrected in 2024 when Harden uploaded an Instagram photo showing members of the YSL, or Young Slime Life Gang, a record company affiliated with rapper Young Thug. However, discussions on forums such as Real GM revealed that Harden's involvement was most likely restricted to social ties rather than real gang activity. Harden's case is notable for his total silence in response to these claims. Unlike other players who have confirmed or denied gang connections, Harden has kept silent on the subject, leaving space for further suspicion. Speculation about James Harden's gang affiliations mainly stems from his own behavior. Derrick Rose. Our final story features Chicago's most adored basketball son, whose link to his hometown's gang culture sparked controversy early in his career, forcing him to face it publicly. In June 2009, a photograph leaked online depicting Derrick Rose, a 20-year-old rookie with the Chicago Bulls, making a hand gesture at a party in Memphis while attending the University of Memphis. Media sites, including the Chicago Tribune, identified the motion as a Disciples Nation gang sign. Rose responded immediately and unequivocally. Rose addressed the topic in a public statement released by the Chicago Bulls on June 11, 2009. Recently, a photo circulating on the internet claims to show me flashing a gang symbol. This photo of me was taken during a party I attended in Memphis while attending school there, and it was intended as a horrible joke, which I now confess. I want to emphasize unequivocally that Derrick Rose is anti-gang, anti-drug, and anti-violence. I am not, nor have I ever been, a member of any gang, and I cannot speak out enough against gang violence and the things that gangs symbolize. In posing for this photo, I was young, ignorant, and made stupid decisions. I truly apologize to all of my fans for my mistake. Rose's childhood in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood, which is renowned for high levels of gang involvement, particularly among the gangster disciples, helped explain why this photo sparked such outrage. Englewood is one of Chicago's most tough neighborhoods, where gang culture is prevalent and gang membership can be a question of survival. Aside from the 2009 photo, other occurrences have raised questions about Rose's ties to gang culture. In September 2012, Chicago rapper Lil Jojo, Joseph Coleman, who was supposedly linked with the gangster disciples, was shot and died. In a 2017 Vlad TV interview, Lil Jojo's brother, Swag Dinero, confirmed that Derrick Rose paid for the burial expenses. Rose reportedly offered to pay for the funeral of Johnna Watkins, a 6-month-old who was shot and murdered, according to NBC Chicago in 2013. According to the article, Rose's efforts show his connection to the issues confronting Chicago's kids, given his personal experience and recent fatherhood. Some online conversations, particularly a 2020 Reddit post on archaeology, viewed Rose's funeral money as evidence of gang affiliations, suggesting she is connected to the gangster disciples in Inglewood's Murder Park/Dub Block area. However, these assertions are unconfirmed and originate from anonymous sources. A 2015 Rio GM forum discussion cited a media takeout piece claiming Rose wore a Gangster Disciples hat during an interview. Forum participants questioned the story, pointing out that the hat bore Rose's personal emblem rather than a gang symbol. The 6-point star on the cap was identified as most likely signifying the Chicago City flag, not gang connection. Rose's story is compounded by his upbringing and his desire to give back to his community. In 2018, he established the Rose Scholars Program to support higher education, and his public words against violence demonstrate his commitment to constructive community influence. Rose's 2009 explanation was widely accepted by the media, and mainstream outlets focused on his basketball career and community efforts rather than gang-related charges. Rose's mother and family helped him overcome the obstacles of growing up in a gang-infested neighborhood, and his basketball talent and emphasis on school kept him away from gang involvement. Unlike some of the other players we've studied, Rose has continuously distanced himself from gang culture, instead utilizing his platform to speak against violence and promote youth in his neighborhood. His tale exemplifies someone who successfully navigated a perilous situation while using his achievements to give back to his community. And with that, we've completed this deep dive. For more tasty content like this, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and scroll through the cards on your screen for more videos. Don't forget to share your thoughts here.